2, 3, 4.
Hello and welcome to the NESN Soccer Podcast. I am Mark along with Marcus. My voice is still gone. Maybe it's appropriate for the topics we're talking about today because they're not exactly positive, but here we are in the NESN studio. Marcus, how are you doing on this lovely Friday?
The case of the Friday is like everybody else today, but I'm doing.
Yeah, I mean, spring is in the air. You just kind of really think everybody just wants to get out of here, but that's okay.
Speak for yourself. I'm actually looking forward to lunch more than anything.
What's for lunch?
I don't know yet.
Okay, it's coming up right after this.
Yes.
Okay, so this happened, I guess, over the weekend.
I think it was Tuesday.
Was it Tuesday? Anyway, well, all right, you want to set up?
The backstory is, I'm going to get a lot of the facts wrong. In Juventus's most recent game, I believe it took place Tuesday afternoon for us, evening in Italy.
Yeah.
Juventus, their highly rated young forward, Moise, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, Keane?
I thought it was just Keane.
Well,
Keane?
It looks like Keane, but it's like Ken or something like that. Moise Ken was the Cagliari crowd racially taunted Juventus's 19-year-old forward, Moise Ken.
Yeah.
When he scored at the end of the game, he stood in front of the crowd with his arms outstretched and in front of the Cagliari, their curva, their ultras, their hardcore support.
Yeah.
And, just kind of gave him a stony face. And then the fans threw bottles and objects at him. And then Cagliari's captain came over and told them to stop doing that. And they threw bottles and objects at him, too. So that was during the game.
Yeah.
But what happened afterward is what has gone, viral around the world.
Yeah.
Juventus's captain on the day, I don't know if he was their captain, but their veteran defender, Leonardo Bonucci, said the fault was 50-50 and that Moise Keane should not have done what he did, and saying he provoked the crowd to racially abuse him. Bonucci has been rightfully pilloried.
Yeah.
Did I mention that Moise Keane is black? I might not have mentioned that.
Well, I think anybody listening probably figured it out.
Okay, yeah.
But, where is he from?
He's Italian, or he might be French.
He is Italian. He's from
Okay.
Vercelli, Italy.
Yes. So, there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah.
And where do we start? Leandro Bonucci is catching a lot of heat for his reaction, and I think he's tried to clarify what he said. I read the clarification yesterday. I know I'm coming across as unprepared for this, but I read the clarification, and the clarification wasn't
Very reassuring.
No, yeah. The clarification didn't fill anybody with reassuring feelings about Bonucci. So let's just get into it. I think we've set it up.
Right, yeah. I don't think we're going to sit here and talk about like whether or not Bonucci is right or wrong. I think we both agree that he's wrong.
It's ridiculous.
And I think it's just so surprising that seemingly such like a veteran, not just like veteran soccer player, but a guy that's really existed on a world stage on like a super club for the majority of his career, you would think would be kind of ahead of the curve, or like just more like developed like with something like this, and like aware that he should support his teammate and not show any sort of support towards racist chants, obviously. But I think that kind of brought up the question, like, why? I think everybody was kind of surprised that Bonucci had this stance.
Yeah, that I think was the most shocking. Now, it's important to mention that it wasn't just Bonucci. Juventus coach Max Allegri came out and said something similar, that Keane should not have done what he did.
Yeah.
So that strikes me as, there's something going on institutionally at Juventus. I would argue that club, it's almost like you become institutionalized when you play for them. You have to walk and talk and think and act the Juventus way.
Mm-hmm.
And that includes when you score a goal, you celebrate with your teammates, which is what I think Bonucci was criticizing Moise Kean for. I'm just going to say Keane because it looks like Keane. The pronunciation, butchering it. But, he was saying he should have celebrated with his teammates, and because he stepped out of line with the Juventus way, whatever happened is on him. I think that's what Bonucci was trying to say. Allegri said something similar after the game. So it's almost like they are trying to indoctrinate this young 19-year-old forward who came up through their academy, and he's a Juventino, how to behave like a first-team Juventus player.
Yeah.
The only problem is that they
have the wrong
missed
idea
the
of
mark
what.
wildly.
Well, I kind of see it as Juventus is Italian football.
Yes.
And if this is their approach, well, I guess we should preface it, and I think most people are aware, but if you're not, Serie A, of all European leagues, at least the most prominent ones, probably has the biggest problem with racism from fans, and just the country of Italy itself has a very big problem with racism. And it seems that the blame is always thrown on the ultra fan groups, which they're definitely a problem. I'm not they're a problem both with racism and in violence and kind of gang related activity.
Sure.
And they're absolutely a problem, but there's no question it goes beyond just ultra fan groups, and there is a problem within the country, and Juventus being the symbol of Italian soccer, and then the country itself being so heavily invested in its soccer, Juventus is in a very influential position where they could kind of, if they had a different stance, and if their veteran bona fide leaders were,
and their coach
had some sort of different approach, and I'm not even saying I know what they should have done or what they should have said exactly.
They should have said and done something different than what they did.
But I think it could really go a long way.
Blaming the victim was not. So that is an excellent point.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the time when Antonio Conte was coach. This might have been 2012, 2013 maybe. He was banned for several months for his role in a prior match-fixing scandal, for not reporting something when he was the coach at, I think it was Siena, or a smaller Italian club. He got wind that one of the players, or that there was some match-fixing that might be going down, and he didn't report it as he should have, and he was sanctioned heavily. He was banned from the stadium for months at a time. He could still train the team and coach the team. He just couldn't show up on game day. But something struck me at that time. I read something that said Juventus is such an important institution in Italy. They have a responsibility to throw their weight around to make social change in a positive direction.
Yeah.
And, you know, this incident here brought me back to that, which is here you have Juventus, who have fans all over Italy. You know, you could argue they're one of the most important institutions in that country. The way they are handling this, the way they behave and conduct themselves means something outside of, off the field, you know, outside of the lines of play.
Yeah.
They have handled this poorly.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen things saying Moiskin should probably say, hey, you know, I might want to think about playing somewhere else because of the complete and utter lack of support that this team that I've, you know, grown up through and come through the ranks, that this team has shown me during this time. You know, and Juventus has tried to backtrack and tried to cover their tracks. Max Allegri in his press conference today came out sternly. He says racism is never justifiable and idiots should stay away from the stadium. But regarding the attacks on Bonucci, he expressed himself badly. After the match, he was still in a competitive trance, but immediately after, he clarified his thoughts with a post on Instagram. That post on Instagram said, you know, no to racism, and it was a picture of Bonucci and Keane playing for Italy. Every player must behave well on the pitch. So basically, Juventus is saying Bonucci, in the heat of the moment, said something, expressed himself poorly.
Yeah.
And I don't know, how does that work for you?
I think it kind of comes back to the sort of the culture that it's a combination of, this is a guy, Leonardo Bonucci, who is so utterly invested in his like career and his profession that it removes him
He is
from
institutionalized thinking.
Right.
Of,
he doesn't know when to recognize that something bigger than the game has happened. And like, I don't think he really, like, because he backtracked and he said all this stuff, it's kind of like, you know, I'm not sitting here thinking Bonucci like is racist, but he like, I do think that when he's playing, like the idea of like, it doesn't matter, like you need to be about the team, you need to be about winning, and like nothing else matters.
You need to be Juventus.
And like, I can understand how a lot of other things don't matter when playing a game, but there are still some things that rise above like being more important than the game. And I feel like if there was a culture, if there was sort of an institution of change that, you know, Bonucci or the coach or the standard operating procedure of an incident like this going down, and like the post game, the quotes would have been different, and there would have been support, and there would have been, oh, there's no room for that.
Yeah.
And you know, then kind of unfortunately, we never would have heard about it, but it would have been a clip on Twitter, and we would have gone on. We just would have seen the celebration.
Yeah,
and that
because this happens so much in Italy and other European stadiums, and also around the world. Anywhere you go, this happens. Hey, it happens in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I'm not going to sit here and wave my finger at Italy and tell them to get their house in order. When
I would say, like, I don't want to be like, oh, I'm Italian, whatever, but it is like embarrassing, like for the country to like have this problem and like kind of be seen as behind the times, or at least that's how I see it. And
is Juventus not reflecting where?
Yeah, and that's the thing, is
Italy is on the subject.
You just said how it exists in the whole world, and that's right.
Yes.
But in so many other countries, the professional franchises and sports clubs and like high institutions and big companies and whatever,
they would know not to blame the
right.
victim.
And they make great efforts to like at least appear to be trying to have a different culture going on.
Sure.
And Juventus is just not doing that. Is what it
certainly
seems like.
not as of Tuesday evening.
Right.
Yeah.
like I hate to, like it's completely different, but like even you look at the Boston Red Sox this past week, they're making trips to schools, and David Ortiz is going, and they're handing out hats and giving speeches, and like the president of the Red Sox is there, and I'm sure Juventus does plenty of charity work, but it's like they're just really active. And
yeah, and then you have to understand that, and I'm not going to sit here and profess to be any sort of expert on immigration in Italy, but Italy is having its first experience, I think, in the last generation, the last 20 years, of large numbers of Africans coming into the country and, assimilating, trying to, or not trying to in some cases, or being prevented from, probably in many more cases, of integrating into Italian society. So when I see these, there are all these incidents of racial abuse in Serie A stadiums, well, what you have is, for the first time, large numbers of black players, and not just, one or two great Dutch guys with dreadlocks, but,
right.
You have players coming from Africa. You have players that are schooled in Italian clubs,
right?
That aren't.
They aren't transfers.
They aren't what we would call ethnically Italian, and now we're getting into the, when Mario Balotelli was starring for Italy and Inter Milan, and even Mario Balotelli is very famous in Italy,
yeah.
But he's probably more famous, or equally famous for, there's a chant that is often aimed at him, which is, there's no such thing as a black Italian.
Yeah.
So what's going on in Italy is, what I'm saying, is very acute to that country and that society, and they are not, I wouldn't say, it's hard for me to sit here and say it's backward when we have problems in this country.
Yeah.
But I will not sit here and say they are paragons of racial tolerance.
Right. I think that's the thing, is it's,
at best, it's intolerant, and at worst, it's a lot worse.
Right. We can talk, we shouldn't sit here and get into a whole discussion about Italian culture and politics and whatever, but Juventus, like, it's kind of like we're holding them to a higher standard because they should be held to a higher standard.
Yeah.
And
so when
that's the point. And Bonucci being on that team should also be held to a higher standard.
And I saw a tweet, and I forget who it was, and I want to credit whoever it was, but I can't bring it up right now because my computer's running a little slowly. It said, Juventus, keep in mind, this is the same club that when Cristiano Ronaldo was publicly accused
right.
of raping a woman 9 years ago, this is the same club whose first public statement was about what a great professional Ronaldo is, and implied that he's such a great professional, no way could he have raped that woman.
Right.
And that statement was met with another, like, are you serious?
Yeah,
Juventus?
like, how is that like what you say?
At best, tone deaf.
And like, we don't have to get into it, but Italy also has a problem with like sexism, and that's kind of a big issue
right.
for them too.
So these things play out in the way these giant institutions like Juventus behave.
Yeah.
It's not a good look for
it's really not.
For the club. And then there's a lot of, what should Moise Keane do?
I think he'll continue to do what's best just for his soccer career, and I bet it will lead to him leaving Juventus, and I bet a big deal will be made of it when it does happen.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. I guess we don't know exactly how he feels about it. I mean, I'm sure he's not happy.
Well, we do know how he feels. He went on Twitter, and he has put. Hold on, let me see if I can find his Twitter account. because he did say something about the incident, and I wish this would be. Let's see what happened to Moise.
Well, he tweeted a photo of himself doing the celebration.
Right.
Yeah.
But what he said was, geez, I don't have it.
Well, there's some retweets. I see he retweeted something from the Juventus official account. But yeah, he retweeted.
Oh, okay. So, sorry, I was looking at his Twitter account. So, yes, he has a picture of the celebration with a soccer ball, the Italian flag, and a heart. It's a picture of him just standing there with his arms out.
Yeah.
So he didn't actually say anything, but maybe the picture says 1,000 words.
Right.
But the reaction to it, now you have people weighing in. Raheem Sterling, we can't talk too long about this without mentioning. Raheem Sterling in England has become he has transcended the game this season for his outspoken stance on racism in England. And he talks about, the English media and the way things he does or his younger black teammates are portrayed versus younger white teammates. For instance, buying a house for his mother. One of the players, a black player, bought a house for his mother and was portrayed as being flashy and fancy. A younger white player bought a bigger house, and they're saying, "Oh, what a great kid this is. He just bought his mother."
Really?
Yes. Anyway, Raheem Sterling has become a symbol larger than the game in England, and he weighs in, of course, saying Bonucci. Once again, I don't have the quote in front of me, but saying Bonucci was dead wrong to.
Yeah.
And that's sort of been echoed by anybody and everybody that has cared to comment on it. So this is just something it's been bubbling for, with around Raheem Sterling for at least the last couple months, and once again he steps in and he's taken the lead, as we say in this organization. He's taken the lead on this particular issue. And everybody that has followed, Edgar Davids, great Juventus player, says, "So it's 50-50. Do you have any idea what you said? Hope you apologize to the guys in the locker room. And by the way, Moise Kean is Italian." Patrice Evra, "This is not acceptable in football or anywhere in the world. Well done from Moise Kean," and so on and so forth. It's saying what happens. The racial abuse itself was inexcusable. It's what Christian Benteke, Crystal Palace striker, said. What is more shocking, and this is my quote now, is the reaction to it. The reaction from Bonucci, who says what he says in the heat of the moment. The reaction from the coach after the game. Both of them effectively were blaming Moise Kean for provoking the Cagliari fans, who had been abusing him all game, to continue abusing him and to throw objects at him. It's wild.
It is wild. A nice tidbit here. Did you know that Kean was the first player born in the 2000s to make an appearance in one of Europe's 5 major leagues?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
And, he's a very young kid.
Yeah.
He's
19. He's 19.
19 years old. And now he has been cast into, this, I don't even know if it's a debate in this conversation that is going on around the world at, certain levels in certain places differently, but it's happening.
Yeah. And the thing is, Italy has not heard the last from Moise Kean, because even on the national team, they desperately need a striker, an offensive power, and he's one of their top young strikers in the country.
Yeah.
and he'll be on the national team, and he'll be competing in the Euros
for the next
in
10
the World
years.
Cup,
He'll be
front and center. So it's it seems like, and it's a lot to take from one goal celebration, that maybe he wants to be somebody that is front and center with this and stands up to it, and he doesn't want to be a guy that stays quiet about it and just goes about his work. He wants to be a good player that also speaks out, and he's in a place where it'll be controversial, but it'll be maybe something he's known for more than just his playing. Again, a lot to take from one goal celebration, but if he wants, he's off to a good start.
If he wants to be a symbol of something bigger than the game.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think is so a sporting judge has asked for an investigation into racist abuse. Moise Keane and Blaise Matuidi, we have to remember, 2 Juventus players were racially abused throughout that game.
Yeah.
A lot of what they talk about is like, oh, you have to punish, the punishment for something that I think everybody pretty much agrees that is wrong.
Yeah.
How do you punish that? The fines. I don't know if it was Raheem Sterling that said it. No, somebody else said it. Once again, I don't have the name in front of me, but he said, the clubs are being fined. Clubs and countries are being fined the same amount I spend on a night out. That's
right.
what some highly paid player said. And I was like, wow, how much do you spend on a night out? But, it'll be
right.
low 5 figures. And it also depends on where it happens and, what kind of...
Well, you've seen clubs get suspended in a way where they aren't allowed to admit fans into the stadium.
Yeah, empty stadiums.
I mean, that's...
Docking points.
That sends the biggest message, I think, is not letting fans in, because the fans are the ones that committed the crime, and they're the ones being punished by not being let in, and their club gets punished for just not having fans. You lose revenue, you lose any sort of home field advantage.
Yeah. But what's going to happen is that, a punishment will be handed down.
I think not admitting
everybody
fans
will agree that the punishment will be too lenient.
Won't be enough. Well, that's the thing, is Serie A will issue the punishment. It's in there.
Yes. And the punishment will reflect how serious Italian society takes the issue
the
of
thing
racism.
is, with how big this was globally, maybe it'll be bigger than it would have been otherwise.
Probably, yes.
The thing is, there wouldn't have been a punishment if, for the chance, if Keane never scores and there's no celebration. It would have been completely ignored.
Sure.
And even if Keane scores, there's a celebration, and Bonucci doesn't say anything, and it doesn't go global, then there still wouldn't have been any disciplinary action, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, there might have been, but it's slap on the wrist.
Yeah. So, I mean, hopefully, with all this attention, it's something serious. But even so, I think you're right that it'll come down. Everybody will be like, all right.
Yeah. And then, it'll go on, and 2 weeks later, something else will happen somewhere else.
Yeah.
I am of the opinion that, a lot of people say, oh, the clubs have to, the leagues have to be very strong and forceful in sanctioning the clubs. These leagues exist to organize and stage competitions, not to fight all of society's battles.
Right.
And I know this is probably, controversial or whatever. The leagues have a responsibility to lead the way in a sense, but the political institutions and the social institutions have a greater responsibility.
Yeah, I agree with that.
To change the society or to push it in the direction that it wants to go. So the point I'm trying to make is punishing clubs punishing fans, fining the clubs, closing the stadiums. I think it reflects the importance of anti-racism in a particular society. So if FIFA punishes for instance, let's take the chant that Mexico fans do. It starts with P and it ends at O, and it is homophobic. I'm not going to parse words. Homophobic chant that Mexican fans make. The federation has been fined over and over again over the last 4 or 5 years over this, but it's a fine of, a few $1,000s each time. And for the Mexican Federation, that is pulling in millions of dollars every year, it's not much. So what I'm saying is, the fine that FIFA levies against Mexico reflects how important anti-homophobia is to FIFA.
Yeah.
Which is, by the way, not very.
Yeah.
There was a point I was trying to make.
You're in there.
I think I made it.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying I don't think leagues should be punishing clubs and punishing fans and docking points. What I'm saying is I don't know to what extent they should be doing that for specific violations of standards of decency that most of the free world has agreed exist. That makes sense. Most of the free world says you shouldn't be racially taunting players.
It makes sense because, I find myself sitting here wanting Juventus to do more, and
you want Serie A,
and I want Serie A to do more. And
does that not reflect your Italian American attitude on the subject, as opposed to, what I mean? Like if you were born and raised in Turin, and you happen to be a white Italian, you might be like, it's not a big deal.
Right. I mean,
I'm not putting words in the mouths of Juventus fans, but what I am doing is looking at their institution and saying, not the biggest deal.
Right.
One of our guys is taunted, and opposing fans use his skin color as a basis to taunt, which for me says something, is a lot more, it reflects something that is inside of those fans versus Moise Kean.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with Moise Kean being black.
Right.
If you're saying, if you're using his skin color as a basis to taunt him, that says a lot more about you,
right,
the taunter, than anything else. I don't think that's.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to come to a stance where I feel like, this is how much Juventus should do. This is how much Serie A should do.
What should Juventus do?
It's hard to say.
What should Serie A do? I don't know.
But I think it's clear that Juventus could do more, and
Serie A
could do more.
Could do more. And we've known this has been a problem in Italy for at least 15 years.
I would say
at least 15 years. We have known that this is an issue. This is an issue everywhere. It's an issue in Mexico. It's an issue in the United States. It's an issue in Boston, Massachusetts. It's an issue in England, Spain. England just went to Montenegro.
France, absolutely.
Yeah, issue in France. Issue everywhere.
Yeah.
But in Italy, it seems to be, I think it's a function of the...
It seems to be more public almost.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a function of the limelight that Serie A has globally, that every time something happens, it's like, oh, there goes Italy again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's...
Exactly.
It's a PR
It's an easy thing for any writer to just kind of jump on and be like, I'll do another Italian Serie A post about this.
Right.
And it's like the only thing that has been written about Serie A.
Yeah, and not not the product.
Right.
You know, not how good the league is or how tight the race is for the top couple. You know, we've sat here and talked about this for how long now? Half hour?
Yeah, longer.
Yeah, we haven't said anything about the competition.
Nope.
That is Serie A.
Yeah.
And I think that sort of reflects the light, the negative light that this recurring issue has, you know, cast the Italian game in.
Yeah.
And they have to do something. I don't know what they have to do.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, what are they supposed to do?
Yeah.
Nor is just do something. Try anything.
Yes. Nor is it my responsibility to, you know, recommend specific steps. Italy. I mean, I could do it, but not today.
Not today. Well,
but yes, there's two words come to mind when. I don't know if I was going to maybe end the discussion with this.
No, we can end it because I don't even know what to say anymore.
Two words come to mind when, you know, I look at how Juventus handled the fact that one of their players was racially abused. And those two words are own goal.
Wait, what? They like.
This is how I describe what
Juventus. Yeah.
And I'm saying Bonucci and Allegri and the club itself.
Right.
Own goal.
Yeah.
They fell in a lot of people's esteem, and deservedly so.
Yeah. And I guess now
Juventus is one of those clubs that, and especially with Cristiano Ronaldo playing there.
Right, I was going to say.
I mean, you know, they are one of maybe 5 to 10 teams that have a truly global following. And boy, did they butcher this one. They botched it. But it reflects their time and place.
And they are still competing in the Champions League.
Yes.
They will play in the quarterfinals next week, 5 days from today.
Okay.
On April 10th.
Moving on to our next segment.
We'll try and segue into that.
Yeah.
But I think when you kind of looked at Juventus at the beginning of the year, before Ronaldo's allegations, and certainly before this, they were maybe a team that a lot of people were suddenly like, let's go Juventus.
They were rooting for Juventus.
And at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if all those teams are like, well, you know, not that they're like even standing up against Juventus, but they're like, I don't really care if Juventus wins now, or I don't want them to win. They've definitely lost any sort of casual fan appeal for anybody that like is, you know, stays up to date on these sorts of things.
Let's not overblow it now. Juventus, people aren't going to all of a sudden start hating Juventus.
No.
I've seen it. People are asking like, "Oh, is Juventus the racist club?" This is what goes on in Europe a lot, where something will happen. It happens with Chelsea. You know, Chelsea fans will they'll say racist things and commit racist acts, like pushing the guy off the train, pushing a black guy off the train in Paris, and chanting about how racist they are. So now everyone says, "Oh yeah, Chelsea's the racist club." No, it doesn't work like that. Juventus isn't all of a sudden the racist club, but you know, to the casual observer, that will follow. You know, Juventus and the word racism will appear in a lot more sentences together than it did a week ago.
The Juventus plays AC Milan on Saturday before they play Ajax next Wednesday. I am interested to see if there's any sort of anything that would relate back to this incident.
So the first game is in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Ajax. Okay. So, yeah, a lot of people will be watching what happens next. Mm-hmm. And it already looks like, judging by Max Allegri's the comments he made at his press conference today, it already looks like Juventus is trying to, trying to recover from this PR own goal that they've scored.
Yeah.
Champions League quarterfinals start April 9th and 10th and 16th and 17th. Let's just run through them real quick.
Yeah.
Tottenham, Man City.
I think that's the funnest matchup for the quarterfinals. Not just because they're in the same league, but Tottenham is playing their second game and first European competition game in their new stadium.
Yes, Tottenham's new stadium opened. Did you see the beer thing?
Yeah,
that's
very cool.
I don't understand how that works.
Well, I've seen that at some like American arenas and ballparks.
So the beer fills from the bottom.
Right, it's nuts.
But there's a hole in the bottom of the cup.
But then it closes once you take it off.
How do you keep the beer from falling out the bottom? Anyway, Tottenham's new stadium is being called the best in the world.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
No.
It opened 8 months after it was supposed to.
Must be good.
It cost, $1 billion. People hope it will revitalize a downtrodden neighborhood in North London. It won't.
We'll see.
Yeah. But, yeah, it looks nice. Tottenham, welcome home, Tottenham. Sincerely, an Arsenal fan. Their second game, so they beat Crystal Palace in their first game on a scrappy goal or two. I think it was 2-0. Second game against Man City in the Champions League. I'm looking at these 4 quarterfinal matchups: Tottenham, Man City, Liverpool, Porto, Ajax, Juventus, Man United, Barcelona. I think this is the toughest one to call.
Yeah.
Because...
Well, Man City's won at least 5 in a row.
Yeah, Man City will be the favorite, obviously. But Tottenham, you don't reach the Champions League quarterfinals by accident. And Tottenham currently, I think they're in 4th in the Premier League. They were in the title challenge until about 2 months ago. But, they're still punching above their weight, and I don't think they will be in awe or intimidated by Manchester City. Liverpool, Porto. Yeah, you would say Liverpool's gonna win that one. Ajax, Juventus. You have to think Juventus. But then again, who saw Ajax beating Real Madrid?
Right.
Anyway, you have to think Juventus is going to beat Ajax. And then Man United, Barcelona.
Barcelona,
yeah. Right. Which goes back to my point. Tottenham, Man City. Of these 4 quarterfinal draws, Tottenham, Man City, I think, has the best chance of an upset.
Man City hasn't lost since January 29th. I'm looking at their schedule now.
Wow.
They technically won the Football League Cup final on penalties.
Yeah.
So that, I guess you can count as a draw.
Uh-huh.
Besides that, they have won every match, no draws. And that includes the round of 16. That includes an FA Cup game, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Premier League games. So they're on good form.
Man City?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they have an FA Cup semifinal.
They have their eyes on the quadruple.
Yeah, oh my God.
Which is
really
incredible. Just to even put themselves in the position with, let's say, 6 weeks remaining in the season, or 8, if you're reaching the Champions League final. Man City had an amazing season last year. They ran away with the Premier League title. This year, they're a little bit lower in the league, not lower in position, but the level of performance is a little bit lower.
Liverpool's still a little bit higher.
Yeah, Liverpool's better. Man City's still a great team, but should they win, they already have 1 trophy. There's 3 more to play. I suspect Man City will win at least 2 more.
At least 2?
Yeah. between the FA Cup, the Premier League.
Well, they are the best club left in the FA Cup.
Yeah, FA Cup, Premier League, and the Champions League. They will win 2 of those.
I think
on
the
a future
Champions
date,
League is
I will
still-
tell you which ones they are.
With the clubs left, it just seems like what else could happen besides a Messi Ronaldo Champions League final. That's what I just kind of feel coming.
Yeah.
Especially with their matchups and their sort of bracket.
Do you have the bracket?
I
in
do.
front of you? So, what are the matchups for the semifinals?
So the winner of Tottenham versus Man City plays the winner of Ajax versus Juventus.
Okay.
And then the winner of Man United Barcelona plays the winner of Juventus Liverpool. Or Liverpool versus Porto, sorry. So I kind of put Barcelona through to the final. Because here's the thing with Barcelona. They've had really bad luck in the Champions League, and I feel like people have forgotten that they have remained dominant in La Liga and have remained just this very big club that has Lionel Messi, and Lionel Messi is still like right on par.
Best player of the world.
Yeah, with Ronaldo, and they are still the 2 best players in the world.
Yeah.
And it's easy for that to be forgotten when Messi's teams don't advance in the biggest competitions, and I'm talking about the World Cup and the Champions League, because I don't think everybody's really keeping focus on the La Liga. But so I think Barcelona will not have much trouble with United or Liverpool/Porto. And then Juventus, again, is still being dominant despite their off-the-field PR issues.
Yeah.
They are running away with Serie A again. Leonardo Bonucci is a great defender, and Cristiano Ronaldo is their attacker, and they're, a top 5 team in the world. And I think they're better, certainly better than Ajax, and probably going to be better than Man City. And certainly if Tottenham can somehow pull an upset, I mean, it would be even more shocking, I think, if Tottenham were to beat Juventus.
If they upset Man City
if
and
they were
upset Juventus.
That would be unbelievable.
No, Tottenham's not going to the Champions League final. No way.
No way.
Yeah.
The only thing,
Man City or Juventus.
Yeah, the only thing with Man City is just that, like I said, it seems like they've been playing very, very well. And it's the right time to be playing well.
They have been playing very well.
Right.
Not seems like they have been.
Yeah.
The proof is in the pudding and the results.
So April 9th and 10th are the first legs. 17th and 18th are the second legs.
16th and 17th. Unless you put this in here wrong.
Did I put it in there wrong?
Well, it says 16th and 17th.
Oh, are those?
Oh, we got the 17th right. There will be first leg games on the 17th. We don't know if it's 16th and 17th.
All right. So, anything else from Champions League, Marcus? Anything else from Juventus life?
No, I think we've beaten Juventus to death.
Everybody just,
deservedly so.
Be nice to your fellow humans.
It's hard to. I mean, no, that's not enough.
I know, but I mean,
just be nice. Yeah, racism is an illness.
Yeah,
and it's worldwide.
Well, I think
it's just Juventus' turn to be exposed for their own weaknesses on the topic.
Yeah. Well, Marcus, we have talked for quite some time at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I think we covered a lot of topics. It's hard to end on a super positive note.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. I would say, do your best to enjoy the soccer still, because it's a beautiful game. All right. Thanks for listening. You can follow us. Follow the NESN Soccer Podcast by following NESN in the podcast app in iTunes. Go to iTunes, search NESN, NESN, and follow us and tweet at us and share us. Marcus is at MKOmard. I am at Mark D. Benz, and we like talking about soccer.
Now, boy, I tell you so.